fans? Jeremy from Sherwood Forest Bricks, and Happy New Year to y'all. Thank you for joining us for the season 2023. Hopefully that we have brought some new things to the channel that we didn't have in 2022. And by that I mean we are planning to bring 4 new segments, or 3 new segments to the show. Around the Brick, which is going to talk about news, new releases, events coming up, mock builders that we want to showcase, stuff like that. Then we're also going to bring a segment that tips and tricks, and where we're going to talk about different ideas on how to utilize the elements, how to store the elements, how to clean the elements, or all around just tips to build, store, and clean. We're gonna try and get our time-lapse videos done, and we want to do that, all of these at least monthly. So we want to do the time-lapse. In the time-lapse, we want to do a review as part of that. So we want to try and not focus on older sets. We want to do the newer stuff. So it kind of ties back to the Around the Brick sets that are coming out. We want to try and get some of those, you know, the January releases, the April releases, and whatnot, so that we can do those time lapse for you, so you can review, so we can do the review, and so you can purchase the sets, you know. And then of course unboxing videos. So hopefully this all kind of tie together. So hopefully we'll have unboxing videos, and then they'll go into a time lapse and a review, and then we already talked about it in our Around the Brick. So hopefully that is where we're going with the channel. Also, because there are 52 weeks in the year and we're not going to be able to do all those segments all the time, we should be able to get a couple studio reviews or walkthroughs, so you can see what's going on in my studio and what I have on the workbench, and that'll fill the in-between stuff. So but because I have not had the time to see what's new for January, we're not going to be doing a Around the Brick segment first. We're going to talk about tips and tricks. And for the tips and tricks this month, we might as well do talk about what I've been doing for the last 6 months, and that is sorting and storing, and how we store our brick. Now, there's many iterations of your collection that you will notice as time progresses, and many of you may be in one iteration or not. When I started out, you know, I had a small tote or box, and this was all my collection. When I progressed from Duplo to actual Lego brick, you know, regular stuff, all of it was in here. And this went everywhere with me. We took it camping. I had my Lego with me. You know, if I went to grandma's house, I had the opportunity. I don't know if I ever did, because my grandparents did have building blocks that I could utilize while I was there. But everybody starts somewhere, and this is where I started with my collection. And now you look at it. But there comes a time where your collection is beyond one case. And for me, that would happen in the mid 80s when I started getting a lot of the city stuff, which is fine because I could build the city sets. They came on plates, road plates or whatnot, and you could just set them around a room, on a shelf, on a bookshelf, you know, your parents could put up a desk or some sort, and you could just have them built all the time. In the 90s, I was into space, and I had spaceships everywhere, so a lot of stuff stayed built. But there came a time in my middle school and high school era where I started building stuff on my own, beyond the instructions, beyond the design element of what Lego was providing in the sets. Whether that became with combining all the castle sets to make one giant castle, or you know, putting all your pirate ships together to make one giant pirate ship, or modifying your police force to make it a military force, since there is no military from the Lego's perspective. You know, that imagination, you know, Lego is whatever you want it to be. But as that happens and you start building larger things, and I got into boats, I started building larger and larger ships to carry my fleet of vehicles and trains or whatnot. You have to combine and collect things, which means tearing things apart and then storing them somehow. And for me, that was readily access, I had boxes for paper. And we're like not talking about like pieces of paper, but reams of paper. The boxes hold 10 reams of paper. You know, a ream is 330 sheets. Boxes are pretty big. So whatever my collection didn't fit in those, I kept in the boxes and I built from there. And that worked great until I started getting a large collection because, as I mentioned, I went town space, which naturally progressed in '99 to Star Wars. So I had a lot of my collection is largely Star Wars sets, which is mostly grays and blacks. When you put a sea of black in a single box, you can't find anything. So that made the realization in 2002, 2003 that I had to sort beyond color. I couldn't just put black in a box. I had to somehow distinguish amongst the black color itself. So that meant taking the whole collection back to basic and storing it by element. So I put in bricks and plates are easy to do. It's when you have the other collection stuff that doesn't work so well. When you have minifigure hands and swords and stuff like that, you really can't do that by, especially when I was using these totes, and I still have them. I don't throw anything. Well, I throw some things away, but you know, I kept things in these kind of totes, which is great for, you know, if this was all 2x2 bricks, they fit great, or in larger ones, the 2x4 bricks, whatnot. But when you start talking about minifigures, minifigure weapons, and minifigure utensils, and minifigure this and minifigure that, tiny little pieces, or even the 1x1 plates, or 1x1 rounds, or 1x1 cones, stuff that's smaller, you know, the 4 long bars, like lightsaber bars and hilts and stuff like that, you can't put, you know, if I had 300 of them, there wouldn't be much room, and there would be tons of room, you know, and to fill this with 1x1 or 1x4 lightsaber bars, you would need 10,000 of them in there. So, what I'm saying is you can't stick to one size tote. You had to have various other things, and that's where I came up with these. I didn't come up with them, but that's where I started getting these, because you could take these little bins and you could put lots of different elements in these dividers, and you could store your collection. So it'd be great to have one of these, and this one is Technic. This was all my Technic stuff, but it's not all of it. I have a lot more stuff, but right now this one is just Technic pieces, and there you can have a minifigure one, you can have a, you know, or a plate modified one, or a brick modified, or tile modified. You know, those are all categories of the elements. And then you can store bricks and plates and stuff like that in these kinds of containers, and that works great. And they even have these, you know, you can still get them from Walmart and stuff like that. Sterilite still makes them. They don't have this particular one anymore, but you can get the drawer systems. So then you can stack them all up, and you could have a workbench. You know, you can go to Home Depot and buy a workbench that you could be a table, and you know, and those are around sale for like $129. You know, and you could get a work table that you can work on, and that's a good thing to have, is a table dedicated to build Lego on, and you could stack underneath all these little bins, and you could have shelves above it for those, and there's lots of things you could do. In fact, I have these other ones too that you could get, and you could have a bookshelf full of these, and you could put different elements, you know, and this is all cones, essentially, various cones, and even there's some radar dishes in here, and the dividers, you move back and forth, and you could just label it cones or minifigures or whatever will have your collection. But you can have a shelf full of these. They stack like books. They latch. They're pretty decent. You open them up and you can have whatever in them. But at some point you have to store your collection. You have to sort your collection to meet the needs. And if you're under 50,000 pieces, you know, 4 or 5 of those, and a various way of storing bulk bricks would be fine. And a single bench, and that's a great situation for a child's bedroom or a guest bedroom where you have your own collection. Because we all have sets that are still built somewhere. You want to display what you have, whether or not it's something you made or it's something that you bought and cherish. Or even if you rotate through the collection, you're still going to have stuff that's built at any given time. But you want to store your extra stuff, or the stuff that's off display somehow. And in order to do that effectively, you need to store them in some fashion that you can access. And a giant tub of it, like this. A giant tub like this is not very effective because we all can't be that 5-year-old kid and dump that out on the carpet and play Lego all day. Maybe you can. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. But there are better ways to do that than a giant pillowcase full of Lego, dumping it out on Saturday morning and building it in front of cartoons. There's better ways to do that. So that's what I'm getting at, is you have to analyze your collection and sort it so that you can effectively build without frustration, without delay, and without having to buy stuff repeatedly. If you put 2 inches of brick in that tote, it's impossible to find anything. So the other 18 inches is wasted space, because at that point you're not finding anything. And that's what I'm talking about as far as effective, because when you are building, whether or not you're building by instructions or you're building by some sort of CAD drawing or just freelance building, when you know that you need an element that you have in your collection, if you can't effectively find it within a given time frame, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to move on to something else, and that project is going to stagnate. So you can become a better builder by storing your Lego collection properly. And that all starts first by analyzing, like I said, and figuring out what you need to do. Personally, I have well over 250,000 elements, and I'm still utilizing these. I'm planning to buy 5 or 6 of them to put over the workbench, and utilize those for the smaller pieces. These Vidmars work great for me. I have, these are 2x2 bricks in a certain color, and they're bagged at the moment because I haven't got around to finalizing the organization, but at some point they're not going to be in bags. But the bags have their method too, and we can talk about that in a second. But even having all of this, and this is all brick, I still will need to utilize those, because I can't have a bin, and these bins are 9 cubic inch is the smallest that you can have. That's a pretty big space for a small element like a 1x1 plate. You can't, you'd have to need 400 of them to fill that space. And most people don't have 400 of each color of 1x1 plates. And when you have 300 grays and 4 pinks, it's hard to find those pinks in a sea of red or green or whatever. It'd be a gray, it'd actually be a lot easier to find, but you can put, those smaller ones in here and still find them. Or there's other options too. For example, I utilize these for my collection as well, and these are just bags, in here. This is a giant bin or giant space, but I have tons of these bags, and they're all relatively the same size. And I know that I can dig through these bags, and they're all the same size, like I said, so they're easy to sort through, and I can find that one that I'm looking for. And if I had all the collection digitally tracked somehow, I would know that if I had labeled this bin, like this one is, H1, and I was looking for 2x3 blue plates, they're in here. But I could also put them in a smaller bin like that. So that is what I would recommend as a tip and a trick, is to analyze your collection, store it effectively so that you're not wasting time looking for stuff. Additionally, we talked about rotating sets, right? So if I had a set on display, like this is the entire Cafe Corner series. Cafe Corner. This is the Cafe Corner set. There's all the pieces in here. It's not on display right now, but it's in this tote stored away. So when I want to go build it again, I already have all the pieces ready. So I don't need to go digging through all of this collection to find 18 1x1 brick, white, or whatever color it is. So you can store stuff like that, or I could put that in a Ziploc bag and put it in that tote, and that could be all my city buildings. Or I could have Star Wars sets, or I could have Pirates, you know, stuff that I'm not displaying regularly, because you can tear it apart and you can rebuild it again, or you could put it into your collection if you're done with it. That's all, and you can do that too. You know, like this right now. This is Cafe Corner's second floor. I want to add it to that one. Well, that's the original set right there. This is in addition to it, and so I have this separated because I've been adding these pieces as I go through the collection to make a shopping list. Found the pieces. So when I get around to actually building that set, I have both of those ready to go. And then the tote will be empty and I can use it for something else. You know, these back here, you know, this is all grays in here. They're all brand new grays, light bluish gray, sorry. And then you can see kind of the one above it is red. You know, those are projects that I'm working on. So when we come around and we're talking about, and, you know, when we see my studio, when we'll talk about projects that I have going, you know, you'll see how I utilize some of the stuff I have. But for the most part, I'm going to store everything in the Vidmar, in various drawers, bins, and then I will have a collection of these above the workbench, and then I will always have these bins that I just showed you for things I'm working on. You know, because we can't all have Ziploc bags full of 1x2 bricks. These are 1x2 brick modified with 2 studs on one side, 2 studs on both sides. So that's the tip is to analyze your collection, figure out the storage method you want, and move forward for that. I will caution you that sometimes we fall in love with a particular method or storing things. I have a set of these that I really like. They are no longer manufactured. I can't add those to my collection, which is why I'm going to buy more of these. You can't get these anymore either. You have to get the other version. So it's important that you figure out what you want to do and buy enough to do it for the collection as it is or will be. These things, you can't get these sets anymore, or these totes anymore either. They are different now. You can still get a 4-quart tote, but they don't have the same style lid. They don't have the same parameters. But it's fine. So that's all I'm saying. So that would be the tip for January, is to sort your collection and store it effectively so that you can build readily faster. And then, of course, there are different methods to keep a catalog. We can't all memorize where all of our Lego is at all times, but you can write it all down. We can talk more about that later, but for now, we'll just keep it with the video that I've coming to the end for, is how effectively we can store our collections. So, thanks for joining us. As always, comment down below if you have anything to add to or suggestions. Like and subscribe, and enjoy your new year. Perhaps you can take your collection above and beyond for 2024 of what it is in 2022 through the season 2023, and join us as we show our transition into a better studio. Thanks again for watching, and you have a good new year.